Here today. I think what we're going to do is I'd like, should we do introductions first?
I think that would be great.
If we could do introductions first, even though I know a lot of the faces in here, I really appreciate that you're here to have this conversation. So if we could go around and do introductions, and I'll talk about how we're going to build a strong economy for Rhode Island.
Hi guys, I'm Brian Pistana, President and CEO of VR Industries. We're super happy to have Ashley here today. Welcome.
This is my friend Craig. He's with me with Shellos Restaurants. Ashley, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm Sarah Ferreras. I'm a business owner. I am an insurance agent, and I'm here representing that. I can insure all your businesses. We already went around this.
So great. Oh, you did? I'm sorry, I'm late to that.
Yeah.
Melody Macon, I own M&G Trucking in Pawtucket. I'm Kiera Alvagaria, I own Linked Permanent Jewelry Studio in Johnston.
David Levesque, Bird Awakenings Coffee House, locations throughout Rhode Island.
Fabiola, I own Fab Living Realty and Real Estate Master University.
Anita Bruno, RI Women in Insurance.
Christopher Black, the chiropractor in West Warwick and Narragansett.
John Cruz, JC Electrical Contractors.
Carmelita Visignani, New England Aquatics, all around.
Nicole O'Brien, Operation Maeve in Warwick, Rhode Island.
Denise Farah, Scissors Hair Salon and My Tails Wag in Warwick, Rhode Island.
And Sean Maloney, 113 stars, Warwick, Rhode Island.
Well, thank you for coming here. A lot of the information that we're going to review, I don't think it's going to be a surprise. I come from business, and I'm a small business owner. So I think the principles that we will review in the plan will make sense to business owners. Probably be a relief that somebody finally is hearing what I've been hearing around the state in terms of the business environment, how the government interacts with business, and workforce challenges if it relates to hiring individuals or also having housing so that we can have more of a workforce that's stable in the state. So the first part that I'd like to talk about is the promise to working families. And what that is it is what allows us, thank you so much, to become more competitive. The reality is that inflation is a tax. It's functionally a regressive tax on working families. And as a state, our tax structure is not competitive. In order for us to have a better business environment, recruit businesses, make it so that the businesses that are here, and I appreciate that you're here. It's not just about recruiting businesses from out of state, but making it so that your business can be successful and that you want to stay and don't feel trapped. As a business owner, a small business owner in particular, the challenge is your business is rooted in the community. And whereas big businesses can often leave, a small business's ties to the community make it so that even in an uncompetitive business environment, you don't have very many options other than to take what you're given, which is really not helpful in terms of growth. So we'd like to change that approach. So we would be suggesting a decrease or restructuring, I would say, of the income tax. In the plan, we'll go over, there are the details in it. And then also the lowering of sales tax. Those are two areas in which we are not competitive in the state. Also with sales tax, we would look to sales tax holidays like we see in Massachusetts and other states. Those two factors, they protect working families. And the way that our tax structure works is it is to create a protectionary effect during a hard time of inflation for those that are impacted the most. Because if, let's say, inflation costs $5,000 a year, I'm just using that will hurt individuals who make less the most. And so what we can do with our income tax rate is that we can protect those individuals. Same with sales tax is also regressive in nature. So lowering our sales tax is something that protects working families. The idea that you have to, when you create a better business environment, you hurt working families, that is a lack of imagination, is a lack of understanding of economics. And so by protecting working families, we're actually creating a more competitive business environment. Both of those things can exist at the same time. And it is a fundamental misunderstanding of economics and how business works, where we hear people that say you have to trade off one for the other. That's simply not true. The other part of our plan is streamlining business applications and reducing regulations. I am sure I heard, thank you, listen, I understand, I've done business in this state. It is so hard to get anything done, and we have a complex regulatory structure that makes it difficult to do business, and it's not really offering the level of protection that you're promised, right? Regulations are there to protect something. Often you create a maze of regulation, and at the end it's just this web that just hurts businesses. So what we'll look to, which is what other states have looked to, they'll look to reduce restrictive word use, which is shall not, cannot, in the overall regulatory code. We'll also include small businesses in the discussion about what regulations are most harmful to your business, and have a committee that'll go through those regulations to reduce those regulations. As you have in business, I'm sure yourself, I believe in benchmarks and standards. We have to have goals in order to tell if I've been successful. I believe you should be able to judge my success based on a standard. So we will be looking to a 10% decrease, which is what other states have done. And everything that we will seek to do in my administration will have a clear, defining line about whether or not we've been successful or not. And I'll tell you the truth. As in business, you know, some things work and some things don't, and you're not always going to get there 100%. But having a goal is so important to actually achieving that goal. And being honest and transparent in leadership is an important characteristic, not only in business, but in a leader and in a governor. So with these squishy sort of versions of what is success and failure, that is what you usually get in a politician. You get, I'm going to create more housing. And if they created one unit, that's a success, right? Because it's more than, right? You can't do that and actually have transformative change that's required in a state. The other aspect, which I hope everyone here will appreciate in the interactions with the state, is that we need to view fines in a different light. Fines should not be viewed as a revenue generating process for the state. It is not a way for the state to make money. It should be a signal that something is wrong. So what I will do in the small business committees, we will measure, we'll look at the buckets of different fines from departments, and the attitude will be, what are we missing in outreach? Or what is wrong with the regulation that has resulted in a fine? It is a simple change of perspective, but if you view fines as a way to make money off of businesses, that is a punitive approach to business rather than a facilitative approach to business. It fundamentally changes the relationship between the government and business. I believe as business owners, and being a small business owner myself, I can say that I always tried to follow the rules. Starting with the perspective that business owners genuinely want to follow the rules and contribute to the community, and the government should assist in that process, is very different than a government that uses gotcha fines and regulations in order to generate revenue for programs. It is a simple thing, but it's a philosophical shift. Well, I want to talk about mentorship and training programs. Workforce development has been a problem. We'll invest more in technical and professional training so that we are able to provide a highly educated and proficient workforce to industry. There needs to be more of a partnership in apprenticeship programs, in mentorship of small businesses. Businesses that have been successful should help other individuals that are just starting a business. Part of building a business is making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. But I'll say, if somebody could just have cut down on a few of my mistakes through a mentorship, it would have been really, really helpful as a business owner. Like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't do it that way. I might have still made that decision, but having somebody that I could go to and say, what happened when you did this? I think that that's critical. The other, so we'll talk about technical training, and it's really about investments in programs like Davies. I talk about Davies a lot. I talk about it so much that I actually think everybody knows what I'm talking about when I'm saying it. It is a technical training school that matches its academic excellence, but also excellent professional training. And what happens is that children leave high school equipped for high-paying jobs. Most of them, I was there in February or March, and most of those kids already, there were seniors, already had high-paying jobs. We need one of those in each county. We need to target the skill training towards industries that need those skills, and we also need to shift or recenter the thinking about technical training. I would say I was the generation in which somehow college became the top path and everything else was below. And that shift in terms of what parents thought about education, that if you were trying the best thing for your kid, they needed to go to a 4-year college. That is a elite classist idea that needs to be shifted and has hurt our economy, because now we are missing individuals in the trades, and it is just simply not true. I just don't know how to say it. College is not the only path, and if your kid decides to go into a trade, it should be a choice, and it is not a secondary decision. And so we need to have an education system that recognizes that kids should be able to choose their path. If they want to, kids want to go to college and pursue a liberal arts degree, that's fine. But an equal path is to work in manufacturing, become an electrician, participate in high tech manufacturing jobs. We need to put those at the same level, we need to invest in them at the same rate, and we need to value them in the same way, so that we value that choice as an equal choice that actually will help our economy, because we are missing that because of a decision that was made about what education should look like for individuals. So I think that shift will make a big difference. I'm trying to make sure I hit all the points, because it's actually a lot. Also, the way that we invest in economic development needs to change. We have an unfortunate history in this state of using economic development as a form of corporate welfare. And there was an idea probably 10 or 15 years ago that if you subsidize firms, the result at the end of the day would be a return on the investment. That thinking has not empirically shown to work very well. Meaning, governments are not great at picking winners or losers in the private market. So economic development strategies that are broad-based, that look to use public funds towards public works projects, are actually the ones that produce the most return on investment. I'm also willing to learn, and so what we will do is conduct return on investment analysis of economic development programs to actually measure what we're doing to see if they have the intended impact, and then we'll learn from the different programs. But the idea is, instead of using public money to build a private road, you use public money to build a road, physically or metaphorically, that everybody can use, that a bunch of businesses can use to go on at the same time. And whether a business takes advantage of that or not is a decision, but you are not going to take public money and build a private road for only some firms to benefit and not others. You take public money, you build things that the entire business community can use to create economic development and growth. So that looks like, schools. It looks like technical training programs. It looks like the smart bag. The other part that I talk about a lot, which is important, whether or not your industry is directly aligned with the blue economy, is being great at something in the state. Massachusetts, if you do the Association of Businesses, Massachusetts Biopharma, Connecticut Insurance, New York Finance. Each of those states, they're known for that industry. And for us, we've spent millions of dollars to know that the blue economy is really an economy and a business environment that we have a strategic advantage with, something that we should invest in and be great in the future. But there is a spillover effect, because when we support factories that are going to help us with clean shipping, the restaurants around them, the small businesses around them thrive as well. So that is why you pick a specific economic development sector to be great at, but it helps everybody in a broad-based way. But the idea is you are not ever going to pick a specific company in the blue economy that you're going to invest in, but you're going to create the environment, the incubator, so that entrepreneurs have a chance. Or you're going to create something that different businesses can use at different times. So let's say seafood processing plant. Well, maybe if you're just going into aquaculture, you're going to be able to use that facility at a different price than maybe a larger company. So it's creating the structure, the business structure that allows companies to grow, rather than picking one company that you're going to bet on. So that is sort of the overall structure of the economic plan. I'll tell you, it's not actually revolutionary, which is usually the best when I ever do business ideas. It's never the revolutionary one that is always the best. It's the common sense approach to economic development and to having a competitive, economic environment that works. It's the hard work that politicians often don't do, because we can make it glossy, but at the end of the day, the common sense stuff is really what we know will work. In Rhode Island, there has been a whole lot of vision, but a lack of execution and a lack of sticking with it and supporting your businesses and actually sticking with the transformative change. I'll wrap up. I talk a lot about what this transformative change is, which is changing the business environment. In order to do that and also reform education, you need a competent administrator. You need somebody who's going to be able to deliver services in government in a competent manner that is credible. Because when you are making these changes, it'll make individuals nervous. So you still need to be able to do the real work of government at the same time. And the lack of competency in government, also the lack of faith in government and transparency, it hurts the ability to execute on a vision. Because when politicians say they're going to reform education, it doesn't happen. Because I have certain politicians like Dan McKee who will not release test scores to parents until an election is over. That fundamentally will hurt my ability when I'm governor to be able to say things in a way in which my constituents, which are the people of Rhode Island, will trust me. We need to get rid of the old way of doing politics where there is a shiny object or a political goal in absence of true leadership that is honest and sometimes delivers bad news or sometimes says, hey, we're going to have to stick with this for a long time and it's going to be hard. And that is what the plan does. It says we're going to do the hard work that all of the economic, policy institutes will tell you we need to do, that the tax foundation says we need to do. We will reform education. I know it's a different plan, but education and economy are intertwined. We will do the hard work, and it's not going to be done in a year. It's going to have some things we can make better. If there's a regulation that you hate, I'm saying, but there's always that one thing that really makes it hard. That's the low-hanging fruit, and that's often what politicians go for. For me, fine, we'll do that. But I am not going to give up on reforming the business environment so that we are competitive, which is the long haul work to make sure that we get tax reform done, while at the same time we are working to make sure that there is a highly educated workforce and affordable housing. It's all part of it. All of these structural issues hurt our economy. And it means that you need somebody that says, you can judge my success or failure by this metric. As you know, I'm not from politics, but in business, that's the only way that you can tell if I'm a successful executive. But it is the same thing as being a successful governor in the state. Is ultimately what I'm able to deliver is what I should be able to run on. And so I plan in the next election running on my record. Clear benchmarks, clear standards, a clear path to where we need to go. What I see right now is somebody who's hiding from their record and instead going into what I would say a personality and a personality battle versus a substantive conversation about policy differences. And I welcome the governor to have a conversation about what he believes in policy, or to run on his record with education, his record with economic development. And I will commit that that's what I'll do. I'm happy to run on my record as a business executive. I took a 2-person company and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business. Within 5 years, I think it was already that. One of the first things that Dan did, he said he had a listing ship with vaccines. He said that he turned the ship around. He did. He hired me. That is what happened. Within a month of him taking office, he hired me to help him with vaccines, and the National Guard and all of the other healthcare providers. We worked together to do the work, and I'm happy for him to take the credit because we still got it done. But a governor runs on their record, and the only way that you can hold political, governors, politicians accountable is making them stick to their record and tell you what they're going to deliver. You'll find that with me. I'm going to take questions. Especially, we can go into the details too. It's just so hard when I start talking about rates.
I made this statement many times, but I don't want to do it again. I mean, we're all business owners and we're all local Rhode Islanders, and if we don't have a thriving business community, nothing works. I said this earlier. No social programs, your schools won't succeed, your towns won't succeed. You need a thriving business community. And the number one thing that we have now is we get no message to get people back to work. We have a sitting governor that still has us under Executive Order 2022, which is receiving money from the federal government to keep people unemployed, to give handouts. As business owners, we can deal with all the competition all day long, whether it's restaurant to restaurant, business to business. We can handle the competition and overcome and fight. We can't handle competition from the federal or state government that's giving out freebies. You know, you got Dan McKee handing out this $40 million. If he has it, good, give it out. But if we created 10,000 jobs, which is posted right now in the state of Rhode Island, 10,000 jobs posted, there's more than that. We could create $400 million of revenue, which would give $20 million every single year just in income taxes, never mind all the other taxes that we pay as business owners. That allows people to have money to move forward and buy things, to build things. Without a thriving business community and pushing the message that you've got to get back to work and there's no more handouts, nothing works. The education program will work. The housing program will work. Listen, I agree with you. Education's not for everyone. I have no high school, no college, never went to either one of them.
Same thing.
You can make it work, but you have to have a thriving business community. We don't got that out of Dan McKee. We got nothing but getting elected and giving freebies out. So without the message going out and without people pushing people back to work and teaming up with the Department of Labor and Training to get people back to work, everything fails.
Well, that's also about being a competent administrator, right? Is that we need to be able to help people get back to work, structure our benefit programs so that they make sense. I have had employees in my ORs who really want, I can think of, I won't give her a name, because you always have that person where she's a single mom, had 2 kids, finally had her kid that was older, her second, that was old enough where she felt like she could return to the workforce. And then by having too many hours at my job, she was going to lose her child care.
Yeah, so she
and her
doesn't go to
benefits.
work, she keeps the benefits
But
instead.
how do you tell somebody in society, you need to have a job, you're supposed to be productive, and then you punish somebody as soon as they're trying to do that? And this is a structure of how we structure the benefit cliff that makes it so that we are not incentivizing work or rewarding that behavior. So we tell somebody, get a job, condemn them when they don't, but then punish them when they do.
Right. So that's another change that we have to make. It should be proactive. If you get a job, we step up and help her if she still needs assistance. Not give her money to stay home and not work.
Right.
So that has to be a shift. We don't have that happening.
I'm a community advocate first, before business. My business is community, right? Building the women in the trades in Rhode Island. I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about education. Without the workforce, I'm hearing, there is no business, right? So how do you get kids to enter the workforce? Providence started with 162 teacher deficit. The first day of school, 32 more left, right? When you brought up the RISCA scores, I was on the phone last night for like 2 hours with a couple of school board members telling me about that. My ears were, it was horrendous listening to that. And I'm very, very excited and glad that you mentioned that, because that means you're on top of it. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm gonna go back to the community and let them know that. I think the workforce is the biggest thing. Re-educating the families, like you said, so that people know, parents know that you don't have to go and be a doctor or a lawyer. You don't have to go in debt to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Right.
You can go to I really like the language that you use, because it's not either or. I went to Carpenter's Apprenticeship School with a fellow sister out in Boston, and when she graduated the apprenticeship, she was also a registered nurse.
Yeah.
Debt-free, because she used that trade money to pay her way through college. So it's not an either or. And I think if we focus on the education and building the workforce, the businesses will thrive. Because what are you gonna do with an empty business? Rhode Islanders are leaving by the droves.
Yeah.
Or if you can't open a business, I mean, I had operating rooms, I had the business, I had the space, but I could not open operating rooms because I did not have surgical technologists. You can't run a business without certain components of your workforce. And then I can't grow, and I can't, pay more taxes or do the things that businesses do to contribute to the community. And the reality is that by supporting small business, small business is always centered in the community. And small, medium, but it's very community centered, and so we need to support workforce development and training. Also, it is a business community issue to deal with the affordable housing issue. If you don't have a place for the workforce either, we need to take care of it. Which means that we need to take certain steps to ensure that we have enough housing units. We have not been building enough houses. We did not get here overnight. And to say that we woke up and all of a sudden there aren't houses, we failed to build them for well over a decade. And so we cannot have the same sort of policy proclaimments without any sort of follow-up. You can't make zoning take 2 years and then building take another few years and say, oh, you're going to deal with the housing crisis. We need to partner with cities and towns to say we need to get this done for the future of our state. Because a delay is not going to work, because people are not going to wait 6 years to either move out of their parents' house, right, or to stay here. They'll go somewhere else where they can have a good life. Mm-hmm. And that means you will not have workers. I've had workers leave, and I cannot compete with the fact that there is no housing.
Well, you got communities and departments that don't even work with one another. The fire marshal doesn't want to talk to the building guy doesn't want to talk to the health department guy. And we try to open up stores and restaurants, and it just takes you years. You need this traffic study, that traffic. There's not a one-stop shopping. This is what you got to do. Do it and open.
Instead of these local officials, they should be our partner as a taxpayer, right?
Yes.
They should be our partner in helping us. I'm going to give you an example, because there's a lot of them. I could keep you here for a week. Easy. It's like if you go, it's like you're trying to, expand your business, put an addition on. Or in my case, the last couple of years, it's been in the paper and on television. We've had a brutal, and we had a tremendous relationship with the town of East Greenwich. And, you got 3 waterfront restaurants, Blue being one of them, right? And we got one neighbor down there that's causing a lot of problems. And, then you find out that, he's best friends with the president of the town council, this and that, it's so damn political. And so they say our music's too loud, but we don't have a violation. Now, we've been around for almost 70 years, and we're proud of what we do, and we do things right. Now, we drop the ball, yeah, but we make sure we correct it. We're not perfect. Right? So, and we run beautiful restaurants, they're all beautiful, and so we had that the town actually basically trying to basically close you down without saying it. Yeah. With the decibels, so they actually put in place a separate sound ordinance, which is against the law, for 3 waterfront restaurants. And the 2 waterfront restaurants were down there, the middle one was closed. One was with us, and this was getting very expensive, so we had to fund it ourselves. And thank God we have other restaurants that that we do well. We can afford to do this. So we ended up suing the town, and we won. But this is the things I'm told that is so. So
what I would say, and I'm in the we're going down the path of with me, you know, it's close to an election, but what you get in a difference is that I hear a lot of helplessness from McKee about all these things.
Yeah.
And the reality is that a governor is a leader. And the message needs to be that, and I said it in my intro video because you touched upon a lot of different issues that we have, which is the days of I know a guy are over. It has to stop. It may benefit businesses individually sometimes, but the reality is if you do good, honest business, you'll be fine based on your merits. And rather than having to know somebody in a department to get something done, like wouldn't it just be easier to be able to like do it online and get it
Yeah,
done?
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's so that is why getting rid of, and people say, oh, I like the know a guy system. It is not about getting rid of community. It is getting rid of a mentality that actually hurts business and hurts families as in a related way, because it is all based on who you know, because the reality is you never know enough guys in this state, and only a very few benefit. And people, even if you do benefit, if you run a good business, you'll be fine without the system. I am happy to do business based on my merit, not based on who I know. Because I was always good
Absolutely.
at business.
Yeah.
That's also when we talk about contracting and state contracts. You should be lowest price, highest score. And let's be transparent so businesses can learn. If you lose a contract, you should see the score and say, oh, I guess I'm not competitive in pricing compared to other people. Not the whole thing, but so that we can learn and have a more competitive process for that. It'll help the state be, we just need to be more professional. I also don't know anyone, which is sort of scary in a small, I don't know anybody anything. But I think having somebody who's just an honest broker who says, like, just follow the rules and you'll be fine, and has a facilitative approach will be helpful. We also can't say that we want business, we want growth, we want a healthy community, and then not support development and growth. Those things cannot go hand in hand. I hear what you're saying. It is a constant issue in the state.
You just need these local officials to be a part and work with you. You don't need
And
to.
not do wrong things. Like we talked about this thing of the trucking tools when you talked about having to sue them to actually get them to do the right thing.
Mhm.
I believe it is important to not use gimmicks, or if you know a law is bad or unconstitutional, you just don't do it. Because what happens is, at the end of the day, like with the truck tolls, we knew it was bad law going into it. We did. Or we should have known it was unconstitutional. Rather than maybe creating I'm not for tolling, but they created a specifically unconstitutional rule. Then $8 million of your tax money, everybody's tax money, went into fighting a case. And right now I have a governor who should know that it's bad law, who is not going to say whether or not he'll appeal it. Or what he should say is if he knows it's bad law, he shouldn't appeal it. And then he needs to say that what he really wants to do, which is tax cars and trucks. But rather than hiding behind his policy objective, it's fighting a court battle, which ultimately hurts businesses. Because when a government comes against you in business, it is a different power structure. They can keep you in court, and at the end of the day, if you still win, you still lost legal fees.
That's right.
You still lost
That's right.
time.
That's right.
And I have
Yeah.
a question.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of, all right, so we're in New England Aquatics, we do commercial swimming pools
Yes.
and spas. So we just won a bid at URI to,
Okay.
do the, sandblasting of the pools.
Okay, great.
So when we would, in the bid process, you have to be, it's like in the forms, like everything, a woman, WB
Yeah.
owned business or whatever, whatever, which is fine.
Certified.
Certified, thank you.
Yes.
Do you know how hard it is?
I do.
For me, I've been trying for
Yeah.
about 5 years now.
Yeah.
And the application keeps getting, and I own 51 shares of my husband and I business. I mean, we started out very, very small, and we're not a big company, but I mean, it's like you're going in there and you're fighting about, I mean, and we do get a lot of bids, thank God, just based off of our reputation of being
Yeah.
honest and being hardworking. And so we're not a big force, we're just a small force. But that, it comes in our favor sometimes, because you have the owner on site at all times, my husband and I,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's very, very hard to get those applications in to,
Yeah.
and then without sending them up. I mean, there's 14 pages of they want everything down to your blood type.
It can be simplified. I've done policy work in another state. So when the environment when I looked, we were engaged 2008, 2009, and in 2009 we were looking to be in Rhode Island, and we didn't think we could make it here, so we went to another place of opportunity. And we went to Chicago, and then I really tried to like it there because I had a business. I was functionally a little bit stuck. When you create a business in a community, you can't just leave overnight.
Right.
I'm often asked by the press, and I was like, have you ever started a business? It's once you start, it's either the choice is can you sell it or do you shut it down?
Yeah.
And then what do you do with everybody who works for you and depends on you and all of that stuff? It's not easy. That's why I feel so deeply for businesses that are subjected to taxation and government regulation that are small, because it's not as simple as, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And but what I ended up doing is working in an administration, Republican governor, and what we did is we simplified the application process.
That would be beautiful.
Right? Yeah, well, you can do that.
I mean, we're not trying to look for, all right, I want to be on the top because I'm a minority, I'm a woman-owned business.
Right.
I just want to be able to go through the same process with everybody and just be able to,
Well,
you know?
yeah, the procurement process in the state, let me tell you, it is symbolic of how we are not moving ahead, because I've been part of that process. And when I had to bid, I had to submit 2 CD-ROMs. No computer comes with a CD-ROM anymore.
No, I had to do that. And I had to buy the little thing there.
And also wet signatures and all this stuff. That is made so that certain businesses who are in the know can participate, and those who don't know how to do it can't.
Yes.
And the thing is, that hurts taxpayers, because ultimately we're not getting the most number of bids, the highest score, lowest price. And it also is, quite frankly, sort of embarrassing as a state. Other states have a way where you can upload bids. That is standard. The idea that we need to have businesses have to
You
run
have to
around
Google
to
it.
Staples. Yeah,
Yeah,
Staples
you're Googling and you're getting this thing to connect to your because I have a Mac, so you know.
Yeah, and
condemn
Mac
me.
too. No,
Condemn
you
me
can't even
because
buy
I
it.
have the drive or whatever. I mean, I'm not really convinced, but it's like.
But
ridiculous.
those
I
are
want to
changes.
interject on that.
Yeah.
So, also, minority and women business enterprise was created to help women and minorities in business because they've been so underfunded and undersourced
Yes.
for so long.
Okay.
So, I would love to see that separated, just because there's a lot of white women that benefit from it, and there's a lot of black women that don't, right? But the process itself is a barrier and an obstacle to women and minorities to get those bids, which are federally theirs anyway.
Yep.
She doesn't have to walk into, she shouldn't have to give you paperwork to say, I'm a black woman.
I have to get. They want my license.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I understand the process of you having to show the paperwork saying you own 51%.
Absolutely.
That should be about the gist
Yes.
of that paperwork. As long as I can prove I own it 51%, that I'm a woman business.
But they want 3 years
They-
financial statements.
There
They
are
want three-
yes,
you
there
know,
are barriers to getting
financial-
certified.
yes.
I had a great partnership in a lab, and I did COVID testing around the country. And the only way that I was able to get that lab to get certified is say, I need you to, so I'm compliant with my contracts. Like, I cannot, meaning it was a minority-owned business. They didn't want to go through the process. The only way that they got certified is one of their biggest clients said, I'm sorry, I really need you to go through this process in order for me to do it, because I have a contractual obligation to make sure that my subs are minority-owned businesses. And if you don't get certified, I can't prove that you actually are. And so we can simplify the process. This is where there is an underestimation of what it is to be a competent administrator and to not create departments that create more barriers. Because that is often what happens in government, is they create a new department to help, and it's just another hurdle. We can walk and chew gum.
You can.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I can. The governor cannot. Maybe he can walk and chew gum, but here's the thing, is that there's a really clear choice this year. And it is a career politician that makes excuses, or a business person who really wants to do the job of a governor, which is to deliver results and make sure that we are able to run a complex organization in a way that creates jobs and creates a broad-based economy that works for everyone. I will work very hard. I have my entire life to get that done. I understand what the job is. I actually like the work. It's like at your place. I like to do the work of governor. I do not need the title. I don't care about the title. What I care about is what I will be able to do as governor to create transformational change in this state so that my children can make a decision about staying here. I do not believe right now that my 12-year-old, if we don't make a change in leadership now, that when he's out of college, he will be honestly able to look at me and say, I think I'll have more opportunity if I stay in Rhode Island versus going to Boston or New York.
Well, that's a perfect example. My daughter's in Northeastern, and she, at this point, this is her first year, and she's like, the way the economy is here, she ain't coming back here.
But
She's
it's
going somewhere else.
unnecessary.
I know, but we need to change that. When you make it
Yes.
so hard to do business here, so costly, people leave. If people leave, then we all fail. We all suffer.
To add, so I'm in real estate, and one of the things that I'm concerned about is the wealth gap that is growing, and the average homeowner have a net worth of about $350,000, and the average renter have a net worth of about $8,000.
Yeah.
How do we fix that? And it's not even breaking it down into minority or non-minority. That's just what the wealth gap is currently. And how do we create, like, how do we get people to stay here? And sometimes I drive, and I'm sure if you drive down 95, do you see the group of homeless people building homes under the bridge? Like, what is being done about that, and what's the plan to get more people into ownership? People that are working class, making enough income, and you touched on this a little bit. A lot of people are graduating, so the millennial generation is graduating with so much debt that even though they can afford to pay for a house, that they have so much debt that they can't even apply for a mortgage and get a decent amount to even qualify. And there needs to be a plan to solve this, because like you said, they're not building any more houses fast enough. So how are we going to keep Rhode Islanders here, and how are we going to welcome more talent?
We can have, first time homeowner programs, and I'm supportive of incentivizing homeownership. But just like another component of moving across the housing continuum, if you create the program but there's no housing stock, it doesn't really make a difference. And so that's why making sure that we are really trying to produce housing stock. So I'm saying 10,000 housing units a year with me. And that's my success or failure. It would be 80,000 by the time that I'm done. Let's start with the homeless issue, because I was at a homeless rally, a march, just to deal with the immediate issue of individuals that are going into winter cold and without shelter. We're talking 1,500 people. I mean, let's just put it down to how it's not that many people. So as a state, I don't understand the idea that we can't get individuals into homes or into some sort of shelter quickly. What needs to happen is that we need to work with hotels that want to do it. And I'll talk about the issue with the governor right now as that relates to that, because we have an obligation to make sure that people have a roof over their head. We have money right now. We have a surplus. We have funds. So we should not let people be cold and be on the street when we can provide shelter. But we have had a lack of planning. This was a problem last year. And now here we are going into cold weather again, and there's no real plan. There was an issue with using a hotel because of the lack of coordination with the community. And that meant that, Nilo, I don't know if everybody heard about that whole issue, right? Those individuals still needed shelter. There can be a way to work with the community to meet all of the objectives and make sure that the experience is not so difficult that it becomes an adversarial relationship. So what happened is a lack of leadership. The governor was unable to successfully do that, which meant that the community was up in arms, did not want that to happen again this year. And the governor said, don't worry, we're not going to do it at Nilo. I think that's what he just said, right? But what is the other solution for people who don't have a home, right? Like, it can't just be we're not going to do it and then no solution. We need to find a place to put people. We need to learn from the mistakes of not having appropriate community interactions, which led to those feelings. And we still need to deliver results. So there needs to be shelter for individuals going into the winter. Like, this is an immediate issue. And this is what I'm saying about a lack of leadership. We don't get here overnight. This was a problem last year. What was the plan? Because we knew this was coming, right? Or the governor should have known. So that is, for me, sort of upsetting, because the reality is that there are individuals that don't have shelter. And I have a governor who was so distracted that, or whatever he is, where he says, I care about homelessness. All the forums I go to with him, I care about housing, I care about homelessness. Well, what did you do to ensure that we knew that we had enough units for individuals going into the winter? Because the answer is nothing.
He gave money to those guys he knows.
Right, but here's the thing: listen, as a business owner, I am okay if you have money, right? If you have money, but I have never just written a check without saying, what am I getting and at what time period? In business, that's what you do. You say, when is this? How many units am I getting for this money? And by the way, when is it going to happen? That's just a common sense approach to using your taxpayers' money wisely, which is, yes, he gave them money, but what? But when? How?
For what?
You don't just write checks. For what?
And that's why it happened like that, and that's why we're still talking about that situation.
And
I volunteered at a homeless shelter, an emergency shelter, last winter with a couple other carpenters doing work on the building to make sure they could keep it open, working with the fire marshal. It was just a temporary shelter, and most of them were people that were kicked out of Crossroads.
Right. And so in the medium term, we need to create housing quickly. So the answer is we need to incentivize cities and towns to look at accessory dwelling units and convert older single occupancy places to multi-family homes. That is the only way, because I have to, and I know that sometimes it's scary for cities and towns, but we can financially incentivize that to happen as a state now that we have money. And the reality is, we have individuals who need immediate shelter. We need to create housing units quickly, and we also need to invest in the long-term housing stock. That is what a leader does, is they say, honestly, we have to have all these 3 different ways to get to where we need to go, and we need to do all of those things at once. And we can do that.
And there are small businesses that are underfunded and under-resourced that are doing the work as much as they can do. So if we get rid of the I know a guy and actually work with the people on the ground that are doing the work, the state would be more successful.
Yeah.
There's another thing, you mentioned the homeless. There are a lot of people that are homeless that maybe cannot work for multiple reasons, but there's a lot of them that can, or that are in shelters that could. If the governor had, for the last year and a half, he's been sitting on his ass, a message of getting them and businesses together, we could find jobs for a lot of those people.
Right.
Yeah.
You got 10,000 plus jobs posted in Rhode
Ashley
Island.
said
Why
she
are we
just
just
went
letting
and
people
talked to them.
Yeah.
I've never seen him at an encampment once.
Yeah.
And
I mean, well,
to
we can do
add to
wraparound
that-
services. That is what is done in other places. You can look to Safe Haven. The first job is the hardest job to get.
Absolutely.
And so part of wraparound services is ensure you can connect being in it maybe not be your forever home, but
But it
you
could
can
be
connect
coming-
it to the first job and support that while providing other
So
services.
now you're working, you're making money, now you can afford to
Right.
have your home.
And then
Like, you know?
helping get that first home, but giving somebody a voucher for housing that does not exist is not really solving the problem, which is
Well,
what
also you
I
got housing prices that are through the roof, and you got rental prices through the roof, so you can give them out all you want, but some people even have a job can't afford them.
You got two,
Right.
So if you don't
working,
create
two
the,
working families
if you don't create the product, you just drive up the cost of the housing.
This is, being governor is not being governor of California. Being governor of Rhode Island means that you can play an active role in solving these problems. You can work with mayors directly to say, how can we make this happen? How can I be helpful to you? You can work with RIPTA
They can
to
bring
say,
the bus
how can we
system-
make sure the buses run on time?
Not only on time, but they could be driving people to his business to go
Well,
do, you know,
yes.
dishwashing,
Yes,
or run a
exactly.
banquet facility, or make a delivery somewhere. I mean, half the time these buses are 2/3 empty.
Yeah.
You know, we can't get people to go up to Baldwin Road's a major road in Rhode Island. The bus stops down at the mall. Well, you can't come all the way up to the street to deliver so somebody can get a job.
Right now, they can't even bring them to school. That's
So this is what I'm saying, is it never underestimate, or it is easy to look at the title of governor and make it is, as a figurehead, which I think is what Dan wants.
Yeah.
Being a competent administrator, wanting to actually do the work and solve problems, is what it is to be the governor of Rhode Island. So, it's not glamorous.
He's a fill-in governor.
I hope he is a temporary governor, and I will work with him like anything in a transition in business, collaboratively, to make sure that there is not an interruption of services during a change in administration.
Answer his phone call?
Well, I will always answer yes. I would always take his call, because the reality is that, if you care about the state and also care about making sure that you represent something. I mean, the governors, it means something. Yeah, you still have to, and it's also just a character issue. Like, I can never imagine saying, like, hang up on something.
I will tell you that if on that night, if he answered the call and spoke to her for 30 seconds and then hung up and told all his people and all the TVs that were watching, hey, Helena just thanked us, let's wish her the best, she ran a hard-fought campaign, you might be in trouble.
Yes.
He would have won over so many people. Not that he's competent, because he's not. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But he's not competent. But he would have won over a lot, because the image just would have looked good. He would have had a great photo op that he could have used.
Yeah.
He showed his true insight. He is not a strong leader.
No.
He's a good guy. He knows him, I know him. He's not a strong leader, and he does not belong to be governor. And there should be nobody second guessing you.
On that note, we know you were business leaders and need to get back to work, I'm sure, so I don't want to keep you here any longer. Ashley, if you want to stick around for a few minutes, if anybody has any extra questions, and I just don't want to keep you here in the middle of the work.
I want to end with, and I said this before you walked in the room, I think most of us believe in you, and we want you to be there, if not all. We have to really fight for her. You got to call people, you got to donate when you can. You gotta put signs up. Anything you possibly do not take it for granted. She's doing an awesome job.
What is the best way we can help?
We gotta thank her. She's not only put her money on the line, she's working tirelessly day in, day out for this job. She's not taking it lightly. We can't either. We gotta do whatever we can. You have a fundraiser coming up at Sunnydale Revival next Wednesday?
I believe so.
I'll be there. Craig, if you wanna be there, Sunnydale Revival.
We talked to Shane the other day.
He's fun, yeah.
Shane said he apologized. He couldn't make it. I had a few other people couldn't make it too, but.
Thank you.
The best way you can help, to her point, is tell your friends, family to vote for Ashley, and mail ballots with the change in the law is an important thing. So if there's any of your friends and family that won't be able to vote on election day, get them a mail ballot or tell them.
Right, I get it. I used to run, when I was running the ORs, it was 5 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. I actually appreciated mailing ballots.
Yeah, but aren't mail-in ballots supposed to be early and not be pulled out on primary night?
The end of the ability to request a mail-in ballot is, I believe, the 19th. And so you have to request it before then. And then they get opened on election night.
It's also telling people, because the reality is I will win or lose by 3,000 or 4,000 votes. So every vote will matter. We have momentum, but I won't take it for granted. I never do. I guess he says he has momentum. I guess that's, you call it what you, but the reality is we are closing the gap in terms of the polls, and most of the gap has to do with my name ID, because I'm not a career politician. Now that people realize they have a choice, I think that they are really assessing what they're going to select and who they want. But it's important that people know about me as an option, and also not only Republicans. I need independents and Democrats to listen to what I say and what I want to do, because it is not a message that is highly partisan. It is about the future of the state and the issues. Yeah, it's for everyone. And so, what?
I said your self-interest and the state interest over party.
Yeah, it's person over, and that's the great thing about choosing a governor is you can learn about the person and choose a person over a party. It's just there's so much information out there, and we're doing more in terms of policy so people can look at the policy aspect and decide which vision of the state do you want. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.